The United States Air Force Blackbird series, which includes the A-12, YF-12, M-21, and the SR-71A, B, and C, and many others, out of all of these aircraft, the one that stands out is the interceptor version of the Blackbirds called the YF-12. This is a spy jet that was transformed into a powerful Mach 3 fighter. How did the United States Air Force plan this? What changes did the aircraft go through? You don't have to worry, we have all the details you need. Welcome to our channel Future Warplanes, where we give you the trending updates about warplanes, from the currently famous to the most advanced ones. Stay tuned until the end so you don't miss out on any information. But before we begin, make sure you subscribe to our channel by clicking the bell icon. You won't want to miss any of our incredible videos. The SR-71 Blackbird supersonic reconnaissance may be the most iconic spy plane of the Cold War, but this incredibly long-range aircraft wasn't intended to serve only as a high-flying spy plane. It actually had a fighter-interceptor brother YF-12 fighter jet made from A-12, which was a version of the SR-71 program. The YF-12 was a twin-seat modification of the Central Intelligence Agency's single-seat Lockheed A-12 reconnaissance aircraft. Unlike the A-12, it was equipped with a Hughes AN/ASG-18 fire control radar and could carry AIM-47 Falcon GAR-9 air-to-air missiles. A-12 had been explicitly targeted for the replacement of the high-flying but outdated U-2 spy plane. Also at that time, the U.S. Air Force was looking for a new fighter to take the place of the F-106 Delta Dart Interceptor. The F-106's Mach 2.3 top speed wasn't quite as ultimate as it had seemed when it was first produced. The swiftly developing aviation technology emerging from the enemy camp had made it evident that the Delta Dart wasn't living to be the ultimate interceptor it was known for again. The Delta Dart was always falling behind the curve of progressively quicker and more capable aircraft during operation. The tipped aircraft for the replacement was the YF-12 fighter jet. The concurrent threat coming from the long-range Soviet nuclear bombers forced the U.S. Air Force to the realization that they needed a high-speed interceptor that they could use to close and destroy the Soviet bombers before they could reach the American targets. Getting such powerful aircraft that would outperform the Soviet Union requires a lot of money. The U.S. Air Force, in its usual way, would have easily provided the funds needed to get the aircraft, but funding was hard to come because of America's participation in the Vietnam War. The Defense Department first believed the North American aviation-produced Mach 3 XF-108 Rapier would be a worthy successor to the F-106, but rising development costs amid the ongoing conflict prompted the program's cancellation. Now, with no Mach 3 interceptors in development, Lockheed's famed designer Kelly Johnson proposed a variant of the U.S. Air Force aircraft named A-12 to the USAF. He proposed to them that the variant would carry an air-to-air missile payload. While the A-12 was technically being developed for the CIA, the U.S. Air Force loved the ideal because it will reduce cost, whereas it will not reduce what the aircraft would deliver. They became interested and immediately placed an order for 3 of the proposed super-fast, high-flying interceptor fighters, which will later be named YF-12. From a spy plane to a Mach 3 fighter jet. The change adopted a second cockpit to the front of the aircraft. The second aircraft would function as a fire control officer tasked with managing the interceptor's air-to-air arsenal. The introduction of the second cockpit brought a lot of changes to YF-12 when compared to its A-12 sibling, which is a spy plane. Over 93% of the structural weight of the YF-12 Blackbird were fabricated with titanium alloys, enabling it to sustain skin temperatures of more than 500 degrees Fahrenheit. It could fly at Mach 3 for extended periods of time and could carry 3 AIM-47A long-range AAMs. However, the nose of the aircraft was modified to accommodate the Hughes AN/ASG-18 fire control radar that was initially developed for the defunct XF-108 program. The addition of the fire control radar to the aircraft created a challenge concerning the aircraft's stability. The designer had to add a ventral fin to the belly of the aircraft to offset the change that was introduced. There are 4 bays in the original aircraft that are designed to hold powerful cameras and other reconnaissance equipment. During the upgrades, the producer converted one of the 4 bays to house fire control equipment, while the other bays were modified to house an internal payload of 3 Hughes AIM-47 Falcon air-to-air missiles. Flight testing. During the 1960s, 3 YF-12 underwent flight evaluations by the USAF. The YF-12 flight tests were to examine the propulsion studies, investigations of a flight path oscillation known as phugoid, studies of the plane's loads and handling capabilities, and performance tests that involved flights with the ventral fin removed. Also, the use of attached vanes to investigate airflow and wind gusts, Studies of jet wake dispersion, engine stalls, elevation hold at high Mach speeds, boundary layer noise, and the effect of a boat tail design on drag. The Air Force YF-12 flight test program lasted until 1966 at Edwards. The team of Colonel Robert L. Stevens and Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Andre took the plane to the record altitude and speed noted. They set and held speed and altitude world records of over 2,000 miles per hour and over 80,000 feet, making YF-12 the world's largest, heaviest, and fastest crewed interceptor. However, the U.S. Air Force could still not push out the funding that will push the YF-12 into operational use. The funding was not forthcoming, partly due to the pressing demands of the Vietnam War and other military priorities. Also, at the time when YF-12 was produced, the Soviet Union has moved past their former fighter, and they are now recording success with their new R-7A Semyorka intercontinental ballistic missile. The introduction of ICBMs into Cold War nuclear posturing meant that the most looming nuclear threat was no longer long-range bombers, it was missiles. So the U.S. Air Force had to find a new approach to tackling the Soviet Union. As a result, the YF-12 program had to be canceled before the first production. However, in January of 1968, the fastest intercept fighter in the world was canceled before it ever found a fight. From YF-12A to F-13B. After the YF-12 was canceled, the Air Force finally came around in May 1965 and placed an order for 93 F-12B aircraft to assist the U.S. Air Defense Command. The F-12B was intended to be a more developed and capable version of the already very capable YF-12A, boasting an increased range of 1,350 nautical miles over the YF-12's 1,200 miles and improved radar and fire control systems that could locate and track enemy bombers from a distance of up to 125 miles. What happened to the three produced YF-12 aircraft? After the discontinuation of the YF-12 jet, the U.S. Air Force, under its research agreement with NASA, made them give out the YF-12 aircraft to NASA in 1969. The NASA Flight Research Center from 1970 to 1979 was using the YF-12 aircraft to perform familiarization and also to perform a few research flights. On June 24, 1971, one of the YF-12 fighters experienced an in-flight fuel line failure, which led to a fire in the right engine. Being unable to save the smoking aircraft, the two pilots on board, Lieutenant Colonel Ronald Layton and Fire Control Officer Major Billy A. Curtis, ejected and were not injured, but the YF-12 was lost in a fiery explosion in the desert. Another was damaged beyond repair in a landing mishap, but the rear half of the aircraft was salvaged and used to build a static test frame for the SR-71, in what would be known today as the world's only SR-71C. The last remaining YF-12 saw continued use in joint supersonic cruise testing between NASA and the U.S. Air Force until it was ultimately retired to the National Museum of the United States Air Force at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in November of 1979. However, the YF-12 name was used again by the United States Air Force when they loaned an SR-71 to NASA for continued propulsion testing. The name YF-12 had to be used to distract the enemies away from the United States Air Force by having a new fighter jet. The SR-71 was redesignated as the YF-12C with a fictional serial number in order to maintain secrecy around the SR-71 program. The SR-71 was redesignated as a YF-12C with a fictional serial number. We sincerely hope you enjoyed the video. If so, please click on the like button and don't forget to let us know if you have any questions or comments. If you do, please share them with us in the comments section below, as we would be happy to address them in our next video. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to see even more of our videos. We appreciate your time. Once again, guys, enjoy your day. See you again next time. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.